Pansin utute magtiar Wheatley Nisigasun o Pasquea Tawau. Welcome to APTN National News. A shooting over the weekend has a First Nation in Northern Ontario currently under a shelter-in-place advisory. Anishinaabe Police Service says school buses are cancelled today for Brunswick House First Nation students as the advisory remains in place for the community. The precautionary measure was announced following a shooting on Sunday, October 12th. Brunswick House First Nation is about 250 kilometers north of Sault Ste. Marie. Police say they responded to a disturbance call from a residential address in the community where an injured male was located. According to the latest update from NAPS, the exact extent of the victim's injuries is not known at this time, but are not believed to be life-threatening. Members of NAPS and the Ontario Provincial Police are searching for a male suspect. Brunswick House First Nation is located in Anishinaabe Nation territory. NAN just last week declared a public state of emergency following a drug-related shooting incident that unfolded in Ginugaming First Nation. NAN, which represents 49 First Nations in Northern Ontario, saying that it's come to the point in some cases where our chiefs and councils feel like they're losing control of their communities. Survivors of the Portage La Prairie Residential School in Manitoba commemorated the 50 years since its closure recently. It was the first time many of the former students saw their peers since they left the institution decades ago. Sav Jonza was at the event and has more.
It's been 50 years since the Portage La Prairie Residential School ceased operations. From 1891 to 1975, Indigenous children from across Manitoba entered its doors on the promise of an education, but they left with trauma and a loss of their culture. Now, half a century later, several dozen survivors gathered to commemorate its closure and a new life as a museum and National Historic Site. Portage Residential School survivor Jennifer Wood was grateful to be surrounded by her former peers, many she hasn't seen since leaving the school. She says it was community with fellow students that made all the difference.
There were many times in the dorms, especially the Sundays were the loneliest days here. Everyone was lonely. Everyone was in their dorm crying. And I'd always go up and talk to them and say, let's go outside, let's go for a walk.
The National Center for Truth and Reconciliation has identified 5 children who died while attending the genocidal institution. 15-year-old Bernadette Hart of Norway House Cree Nation was one of them. She is now memorialized in a plaque that will hang in its halls. Margaret Swan spoke on behalf of the Southern Chiefs organization. While she didn't attend Portage Residential School, she says she could relate as a day school survivor.
To kill the Indian in the child. That was the intent of all levels of government when they came onto Turtle Island. They wanted to kill us off, steal our lands and resources, but they couldn't do it because our ancestors were brilliant.
The morning closed off with a song by the school's former glee club and other survivors. I will return once more. Wood says keeping the day positive is important for healing. She hopes in another 50 years, new generations will continue commemorating the story of the Portage La Prairie Residential School survivors.
I hope that we see all kinds of buildings and institutions talking about residential school. I hope that when you walk out of the airport from an airplane that you see it fully in the airport. This is the home of the residential school survivors who survived all these schools in Manitoba, and that goes straight across the country. That's what I'd like to see.
Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Ginanaskamat and Sav, the Senate Committee on Science and Technology is currently studying Bill S-202. Senator Patrick Brazeau introduced it in 2023. Its aim is to put warning labels on alcohol packaging, similar to the ones on cigarette packages that talk about the link to cancers. Brazeau told the committee he is no stranger to the negative impacts of alcohol, including addiction, domestic abuse, and mental health issues leading to suicide. He says studies prove alcohol is linked to 7 types of cancer, including colon cancer, which he personally battled. Brazeau said the biggest challenge is getting industry on board.
Industry, the alcohol industry and lobby are interested in one thing and one thing only, and those are profits. They do not care about the health or well-being of Canadians. That's the bottom line. But we all have a job to do in life, and even representatives of these companies will have to come here and try and save face and try and put the best answers forward. But we know they have a job to do, but we also have a job to do. And our job is to make sure that Canadians from coast to coast to coast are aware of the dangers, the negative impacts, and the 7 cancers that alcohol causes.
On Thursday, American President Donald Trump signed an executive order removing Indigenous Peoples Day that has been celebrated alongside Columbus Day. Indigenous Peoples Day has been celebrated since 1992 in cities across the United States. In 2021, then President Joe Biden officially proclaimed the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, sharing with the holiday known as Columbus Day. Biden's proclamation was never made into official law. President Trump's executive order states that the day will only be known as Columbus Day. Matei City Councillor from Edmonton, Aaron Paquette, was critical of Trump's action.
Who are the leaders who are going to create a better reality here? Rather than dancing like a puppet to his strings, what are Indigenous leaders and allies going to do to show that the person who would love to be the puppet master is actually the puppet? And what are we going to do in order to assert our reality and our right to exist? That's the question.
The Saskatchewan music community is mourning a loss of 2 brothers who lost their lives in a crash near Melfort Thursday evening. They were members of a family band rising to popularity. CTV's Laura Woodward has more on what happened and the tributes that are pouring in.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Brothers Rainey and Seth Constant are being remembered for their talent on stage, performing in their family band Constant Reminder with their other brothers Cole and Ethan. Seth played the guitar and Rainey on the drums. On Thursday evening, their truck collided with an SUV on Highway 3 west of Melfort. The driver of the SUV, a 59-year-old man from Canistino, died at the scene. 31-year-old Seth Constant, who was driving the truck, also died at the crash site. His passenger, 24-year-old Rainey Constant, died later in hospital. RCMP are investigating the cause of the crash. Sask Music says the brothers' passing is a major loss to the music scene, calling the musicians talented, hardworking, and passionate. Gordon McKenzie, a fellow musician and longtime fan, remembers first seeing them perform in 2016.
They were trendsetters in a way because they were so young. What set them apart was how professional they were with everybody, and they were so personal with everybody that came around. Those guys were revolutionary in what they were able to bring.
The Constant brothers were members of James Smith Cree Nation, which released a statement saying, quote, "Their songs celebrated resilience, family, and identity, values that are deeply rooted in who we are as Cree people. Their legacy will live on through their music and the memories they created for all of us." Laura Woodward, CTV News, Saskatoon.
From APTN News to all the Constant family, our condolences. CanadianHealingQuilt.ca is a new website dedicated to people who lost their loved ones during the COVID-19 pandemic and others grieving. It is a place to honor someone with a memorial quilt square, which can be shared publicly or privately. Julia Ross spoke to Elder Albert McLeod, who was behind the creation of the digital quilt.
And that's the thing when people die, unless you go through these rituals, you come to terms with, you accept that they are gone. Mm-hmm. But unless we do that, they live somewhere in your mind, right?
Albert McLeod came up with the idea to create an online space to memorialize those who died during the COVID-19 pandemic. He says the Healing Quilt was created to honor, memorialize, comfort, and heal. The website launched with Canadian Virtual Hospice this September. McLeod says he saw the impact that the lack of end-of-life rituals such as wakes, services, and burials was having during the pandemic, just as he had seen before.
The idea of the healing quilt came from my experience that goes back to the AIDS pandemic from 1980 to about 2000. And in those days, there was a lot of fear and stigma about AIDS. And in those cases, many people were not remembered who had passed away during that time. And so in Canada, we created the Canadian AIDS quilt.
Having a friend that passed in 2020 with no service held, McLeod knew there were countless others going through the same situation.
That idea came to me after COVID, where a lot of times people were not enabled to go to hospitals to be with their loved one who was quite ill from COVID or other illnesses like cancer or diabetes. So we came up with this concept of a virtual way that people can remember their loved ones who passed away.
He says that having a digital healing quilt is important for accessibility so that all grieving people can come together at any given time.
I think it is an opportunity for the Indian residential school and day school survivors to acknowledge people they knew who have since passed, as well as the people dealing with the murder and missing Indigenous women and girls in Canada, another way that they can memorialize their loved ones or their friends or their relatives.
McLeod says that creating a square is something anyone can do at home and that the choice to share it with relatives or to create a public memorial is an option. The healing quilt offers ongoing healing and a lasting place for remembering and honoring. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Tapwagiche, Julia. When we come back, we check in with our colleagues in Australia over at NITV. Cheskwa. Pitagwe. You Used to Call Me Marie by Thai Amy Grarman returns to Vancouver after a run at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. This epic Métis tale of love, resilience, and the rise of the Métis Nation is at the Arts Club Theatre in Vancouver before touring to venues across the Lower Mainland. Ryan Cunningham reports.
You Used to Call Me Marie by Thai Amy Grauman is a multi-generational love story set during the rise of the Métis Nation.
So I wrote this play, and it's all the love stories of my family, starting in creation with Star Woman and ending with me, and it's 8 love stories intertwined about how I came here and also about the emergence of the Métis Nation in Alberta.
Me Stetson was lying beside us. There was sweet grass and tobacco growing all around.
You can't give birth in the garden.
But the stars told me to.
No, Marie,
Livy
you can't
Jean
leave
Marie
these 4
Bonin
walls. Do you
and Aaron
understand?
Oakham
There are
Mason
men
play
out
the
there who are
star-crossed lovers across time.
No.
I don't want our children stuck in the walls of this fort.
I really like the 1930s scene. It's the Great Depression, it's the drought, but our 2 characters managed to find a lot of joy and a lot of hope. And I think that's very aligned with the Métis culture. There's a lot of resilience.
Weaving music, dance, and poetry, You Used to Call Me Marie transports audiences to a different time.
You Used to Call Me Marie is a bit of an ode to the progression of names in my family. So for many generations leading up to me, all of the women were named Marie. And then at some point around my mom and dad's generation, we quit using Métis names. So Used to Call Me Marie is an ode to the return of the name Marie.
You Used to Call Me Marie runs at the BMO Theatre in Vancouver until October 12th. You can catch it all along the Lower Mainland until November 9th. This is Ryan Cunningham with APTN National News, Vancouver.
Kinanaskamitin Ryan. The work of one of Victoria's most famed weavers is being honored in an exhibition in Melbourne. More than 50 works by the late elder Auntie Connie Hart are on display at the Koori Heritage Trust as part of its 40th anniversary celebrations. This now from our partners at World Indigenous Television in Australia.
From baskets to fish traps, the pieces on display here a tribute to the late Connie Hart, a Gunditjmara elder and master weaver.
I'm very pleased that they've made a big show for Auntie Con. because when I first saw the video, it brought tears to my eyes.
Growing up, Auntie Connie learned how to weave by observing her old people and sneaking stitches when no one was looking.
Her mother wasn't allowed to teach her because they were coming into the white people's way. So she just sat down and when the older women was weaving, and she watched them. And when the mother put hers down, she went and did a couple of stitches.
Her niece Sandra saying Auntie Connie overcame that fear herself later in life.
My sister and my daughters and my nieces went up to Auntie Con's to ask her to show us how to weave. And she said no. And we asked her why. And she said, oh, because the government will take a house, they'll come and take our children away. But we kept on, went back each month and we kept on nagging her. She finally ended up showing us, but it was behind locked doors, closed curtains.
For her passing it on to the next generation, and for contemporary weavers today, it's a very important legacy because it is that continuation of a tradition.
Sandra is now a weaver herself, with her own massive eel trap installation hanging proudly in the Koori Heritage Trust. Her daughter also leaving her mark on Auntie Connie's exhibition as well.
I'm proud that I've been taught how to do it. And in one of the near baskets in there, Melissa's got one stitch, my daughter. One for girls, women, and they all loved it.
Connie Hart, one stitch at a time, is showing at the Koori Heritage Trust until the end of November. Cameron Gooley, NITV News.
That's some beautiful work. We now want to tell you the results of last week's web poll questions. Our first question we asked was, do you think residential school denialism should be classified as hate speech? 57% voted yes, 36% voted no, and 7% were unsure. Our second question was, are Canadians more supportive of Indigenous issues than in the past? 56% said yes, 25% said no, and 19% were unsure. Thanks for taking the time to cast your votes. You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/poll to see this week's new poll questions. We've got a new addition to our APTN News team. Hear from Justin Hardy when we come back. Take a guess where he'll be located. Wow, welcome back. Starting in the East St. John's, 9 degrees, Charlottetown 13. Kuujjuaq 11, Nain 14. Chibougamau 12, Quebec City also 12. North Bay 15, Sault Ste. Marie 11. Big Trout Lake 3 degrees, Thunder Bay 6. In Manitoba, Churchill 1, Puckatawagan 2. Barons River 4, Brandon 0. Southern Saskatchewan, North Battleford -3, Regina 1. Uranium City 3, La Ronge -1. Moving west, high level 15, Grand Prairie 14. Edmonton 13, Lethbridge 10. Quesnel 12, Kamloops 13. Dease Lake 6, Smithers 5. Up north, Old Crow 1, Mayo 2. Wati 7, Norman Wells 3. Sac Harbor -2, Colville Lake 1. Cambridge Bay -4, Chesterfield 1. Resolute -7, Iqaluit 2. Nunavut became a territory over 25 years ago, with Iqaluit being the capital and its northernmost city. And it will now be home to our new video journalist, Justin Hardy. He's joining the APTN National News team and spoke with Chris and Najikote earlier.
Justin Hardy, thanks so much for joining us and being here. And from all of us, I want to say a big welcome and congratulations for joining the APTN National News team.
Oh, thanks a lot. It really means a lot to me to be here today.
That's awesome. First off, Justin, can you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you previously worked?
I'm from Binjitwabik Zaging, Anishinaabeg First Nation, which is located on Lake Nipigon. I actually studied film. I'd always dreamt about working on movies, and actually kind of lucked into a career in journalism. My first job at my last station, I didn't know I was applying to be a reporter. I thought I was going to be an archiver or someone working with the files. It wasn't until I got to the interview, and I'm kind of glad that accident happened.
You kind of fell into the news job, eh?
Oh, definitely. Now I can't picture myself doing anything else.
That's awesome. Justin, how are you hoping to approach the uniqueness of covering Iqaluit and the Nunavut region?
I think I want to approach by letting the community sort of lead me, as someone who's not from that community. I don't know what stories are important to them. So I think my goal is to connect with the community and just learn about what they think is important, what they want to share with the rest of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great answer. And what do you hope viewers will take away from your reporting?
My biggest hope is that people will take away the same sort of excitement that I'm going into the territory with. This is a whole new journey for me as someone from the Great Lakes region. The tundra, Nunavut, it's all new and it's exciting, and I just hope that people get to also feel that excitement as they learn about these stories.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, you did work in Thunder Bay as well for a number of years. What were some of the stories that you were most proud of that you got to do?
There is one in particular. It was a trip up to Sandy Lake First Nation, which is a flying community, and the original point of the trip was to cover the grand opening of an electronic transformer station. But while I was in the community, I was able to talk to their leadership and find out that they're facing some serious crises, particularly related to mental health. And it's not something that people would have known if no one went into these communities to let them say what they want to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Giving people out there a voice, as always, eh? Yeah. And finally, Justin, what are you looking forward to the most about Iqaluit and being up there?
Just how different it is. I'm from the Great Lakes, so I'm used to the bush, the trees, the rivers. I've never experienced tundra. I've never seen the ocean. I think this is going to be an amazing adventure to go on.
Well, that's great. We're all excited for you. Justin Hardy, we're very happy to have you on the team. And just a heads up, Justin will be in Iqaluit next week. Hi, thank you for being here, Justin.
Thank you for having me.
That's definitely a change of environment, Justin. And that's your daytime newscast for APTN National News. I'm TR Wheatley. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Join Dennis Ward again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, from all of us at APTN to all of you, Egasi, Gitam, Gigawapamitinanaw.